Hey again, I got the inventory pretty full again, so do another IDing session, and again all 62s and 63s except for the couple item slots that max out at 62, and so I included 61s for those. Hopefully get a little better luck the next couple times. Okay, we've got competing primary stats, but a decent resist all and some more defensive stats and armor, but no vitality. And being a chest, a lot of people are searching for sockets, which this doesn't have. Um, and as far as primary stats go, this is an incredibly low roll for a chest. People are looking at between the combination of a primary and a vitality, looking for. I think there's brackets of buyers, whether it's they're looking for at least a combination of 200 or 300 or 400. It's going to determine their price point. But when a piece barely even clears 100 between a primary and vitality, it's not going to cut it. There's no hope for it. So here's another chest, and we've got primary and vitality, but we don't have a resist all, we don't have sockets, and there's no other sexy stats. The single resist here is the worst of them, being cold, and thorns is a wasted attribute. I mean, the only small synergy here is it's got a Demon Hunter ability and Dex as its primary, but beyond that, this thing doesn't stand a chance. One small thing I did last time that I probably shouldn't be doing when I have an IDing session this large is throwing the items on the ground that I want to keep, because if for some reason I get DC'd, then I've lost those. So I'm going to just now that I have a spot cleared out in my inventory, I'll put back into my inventory the ones that I'll be keeping for the end of the session for the little auction house work. So, shoulders. We've got a vitality equivalent here. We've got magic find and resist all. So, really haphazard affixes here. It's too random. It's too oddball of a piece to really have an audience. Low numbers, but it does have crit and a socket, but 700 is still just way too low. But that's exactly what you want to see on your items, is crit damage plus a socket. Again, competing stats. I mean, it's bad enough that you've got 5 or 6 affixes that you're rolling the dice on, but it's bad enough when you get the ones you don't want, but when you get ones that are competing for the audience, strength and a wizard ability are obviously not going to be utilized by the same character. So not only did you get a wasted roll, but they're directly in conflict with one another, which just kind of rubs salt in the wound. But it happens, and you just got to look past those numbers, and you got to look at the bigger picture. You can't even play this game for a couple days of just pure farming, because that isn't a proper sample size. I mean, you really have to start putting your expectations in perspective, and you either be in it for the quote-unquote long haul, of maybe a week or two of farming, or just maybe maybe you're not the right person to play a numbers game like this. Obviously, super low numbers and no socket. Nothing worth talking about on that weapon, let alone this chest. So, strength, demon hunter ability, decent magic find roll, no sockets. So, pretty decent little bracers here. There's no primary stat, which is going to really hurt its visibility in the auction house, because generally one of those 3 search parameters that people use is going to be for their primary stat. You might find a little smarter of a buyer, but by the very nature, a smarter buyer is going to be one that's looking for a better piece than this, unless it's maybe for one of their second or third characters that they've recently leveled or something. But having 4 viable affixes isn't too bad. The problem is being that lack of a primary stat. So we'll take a look at it. We'll look it up. But the problem with searching for something like that is the ones that are going to be worth money are definitely going to include a primary. It's a nice little level 62 amulet. And unfortunately it's just gold. But max gold and really high resist. So this is definitely a bot amulet for sure, you know. They want something where their characters can just be programmed to run around the rooms and pick up gold and not die. So this will help them out a lot. A lot of defense and perfect gold find. So that one's got a shot. It's just not very attractive from a player standpoint. I don't think, I haven't seen anything recently at least, but I certainly don't see any justification for people doing, you know, human gold find farming unless they aren't geared enough to do Act 1 Inferno. Maybe you're fresh 60 and you just need to farm a gold for a day, basically, at, you know, an afternoon of playing, and go do the Ariat crater, all the spiders and junk over and over again. But really, if you haven't hit 60 if you hit 60 with less than 1,000,000 gold, it's about all you need to get geared out in a bunch of defensive gear, and then you can just start going on Act 1. But the numbers just do not come out in gold find favor. Even if you have the worst luck in the world, running Act 1 Inferno over and over and again is going to give you better results than any sort of gold finding repetitive patterns out there right now. When you add in the Exquisite Essences, the Tomb of Secrets, which obviously are dropping in price significantly, but they're still netting you way more than, at least according to my numbers, the runs I do, way more than the claimed 400,000 gold an hour for gold find runs. Okay, back to the item. Shitty belt. Nothing sexy. Nice little dark blade here, and horrible numbers. Really nice rolls on, you know, this could appeal to Dex or Intellect, but numbers aren't there. Strength and nothing else relevant, so. If only. Just a little too low, but it's got some pretty nice affixes. I believe a faster weapon is desirable, but if this had a socket, it'd have a real shot, because it's right at that cusp of acceptable weapon DPS numbers, and then it's got really nice DPS stats for a potential offhand weapon. Incredibly low numbers, low rolls on these affixes, but it's got 1, 2, 3, 4 relevant affixes, being the intelligence, the vitality, the life percent, and a really nice life regen roll. The gold's irrelevant, the cold is irrelevant to an educated buyer. So this could have been a great item, but those low numbers just horrible. If this had even just 100 more on the intellect and the vitality, make it like in the 120s, this would be worth a significant amount of money. You might have to wait until you find the right buyer, but an almost 400 roll on the life regen is huge. That is not just a bonus roll, that is truly something that certain people are searching for. Life on hit is incredibly expensive. But you can get higher life per second regen numbers if you start gearing for it than life on hit, and probably a price factor of maybe, I'd say 20 to 30% of what life on hit would cost you. All other things being equal on the item, that you're not sacrificing anything else. And again, like I mentioned in the other videos, you're not always attacking. A lot of times you have to move, you have to get mobile to save yourself. Desecrator's down, arcane beams are around, you know, you've got monsters charging you, whatever it may be. That life regen per second's always running, always ticking, and it's not affected by a coefficient multiplier like life on hit is, which is really might determine how your skill set, what class build that you're forced to play, to choose an ability or a skill that has a better life on hit coefficient. And life regen, you really don't have that restriction. A lot of people justify doing a little bit of both, which is smart. Um, but lately, I've been considering a bit more um, the need to go ahead and do a little testing and try out a critical mass build, not for explosive blast whirlwind type reasons, but maybe just to have a permanent diamond skin on and stacking life regen, and then it's just you don't need to necessarily kill them fast because they never have a chance to hit you in the first place. Okay, back to the piece. Triple primary stats, but a nice resist all. It's just not enough to cut it because you've essentially wasted two affix rolls on these bracers. And then the armor's essentially a throwaway as well. It's a low armor roll, so if somebody's really looking for armor on their pieces, they're going to want something a bit bigger. Very nice life on hit, natural crit, vitality, but super low damage. Something like this axe with a reduced level requirement affix would sell for bonkers. These aren't too bad. They've got essentially 3.5 applicable affixes. Forgive the alliteration. Arcane is not something to scoff at. It's not fire or physical, but it's definitely up there in the top 3. So it's worth a little something there. It's a moderate resist roll. And then 5% life isn't enough to necessarily make up for a lack of vitality. It's a low vitality roll. Depending on the character you play, maybe that 5% is a 40 vitality roll. If you're a tanky barbarian, maybe that 5% is worth a lot closer to 80 vitality. But a lot of people are going to be searching specifically for vitality and will not see this on the auction house. That being said, it'll be worth looking up and seeing current trends and if people have caught on a bit to life percentage in place of vitality, not as a bonus affix. Nothing too great there. $500, but unfortunately it's life on kill, not life on hit. Horrible little chest, cold resistance, decent life regen. Yeah. Nice dex and vitality in a socket, but 600 on a two-hander is just a joke. Again, too low. 19 block, some strength, and some life. Unfortunately, this is missing a higher roll on your primary, with whichever one you want to take there, and it's missing crit. So too low for a two-hander. Really low primary rolls, and then a decent vitality. This might have a shot if one of those primaries was a big roll, but it would be slim pickings. You'd be at the bottom of the barrel with the lack of a pertinent single resist and the lack of a resist all. Life on hit, natural crit, some dexterity for a witch doctor piece, and a 300. Sometimes I think it's almost more interesting to see how bad an item can get as opposed to just crossing your fingers for a good item. If you consider yourself to be lucky when you hit something at both ends of that spectrum, might increase your enjoyment of the game a little bit. So unfortunately we've got triple primaries here and some gold find. And it's low enough gold find that it's not really going to be desirable for some gold farming barbarian out there. 16 is just not going to cut it. This is just what you want to see, but the numbers aren't there. But it'll be decent to look this up and show just how low this is. I would not be at all be surprised if there are 3,000 and 4,000 gold pieces up here, like with these low numbers. but a physical